As scientists, we have an obligation. That obligation has to be done scientifically. You got to consider the philosophy of heroism and selfless acts, and we precede everything. This workshop began with this premise that we're nearing 9 billion, and we have to plan how are we going to keep 9 billion people alive. The night that the Titanic sank, there was that dilemma of how do we manage to keep everyone alive? Boats rowing away with room for more. But do you go back? Do you risk that then you'll be just overrun and then everyone suffers at the effort to save the few? We're trying to change the abilities of sustainability. We're trying to take a planet that has a finite amount of resources, and we're trying to see if we can manipulate things to create an infinite abundance on a planet that just can't, it has a carrying capacity. We're limited with what we can do.
Now you take into the fact we also have to speak for all the American people who have been duped by American tobacco. All the American people that have been told before, we know you're overweight, but take a little fen-phen, it'll all be okay. We've tested it, it's safe. And so we have documented cases over and over where the Food and Drug Administration ruled something safe, only to find later, have you been affected by mesothelioma? We hear these things all the time with cases that are in the way. Currently, right now, there are lawsuits being posted. The most prominent was the lawsuit against 2007 against Syngenta with Glockner Farms, the German test farm for the BT-176, where all the animals died after being fed solely a diet of B-176 modified corn. The rest were put down due to illness and disease. The problem is not that the animals died, but that the document was buried and hidden and never released to the public for fear of bringing undue strain. So I think the problem is that I can't verify these. I'm not a lawyer, so my legal advice is free. But the point is, I think you have to err on the side of caution at some point with regards to genetically modified crops and human health. Now, biotechnology, huge fan. Biopharmaceutical products, you have insulin, modified product produced in a controlled environment, filtered and released to the public. Very different than modifying an organism, putting it into the wild and saying, don't worry, nothing will happen. With respect to the Bt toxin, my same French friend that we share emailed me as well. And he indicated that with the CR1 at 100 parts per million induced a 2-fold increase in kinase activity in the cells. They also looked at mitochondrial activity. Bottom line, the Bt toxin is causing cell necrosis, not apoptotic cell death. This cell necrosis is happening slowly over a period of time, altering with conjunction of the flora of the natural bacteria of the gut, necrotic tissue. You take into effect too human intestinal health, very different between individuals. It's a very I'm not going to say aseptic, but it's just the environment is conducive to necrotic disease, and that is where these things are happening. So the studies at this point, I think, are premature at looking not solely at the pathology of individual cells, which scientists are starting to look at, but the problem is these crops have been out there for years, and the genie is already out of the bottle.
The only thing we want to close with is that there will always be long-term effects to the ecosystem and biodiversity when you introduce unnatural ways to change the natural traits of the world, and that we need to have more long-term tests and studies before we jump straight on to the genetically engineering food for human consumption.